Welcome to MetaBookNook Deep Dives for Curious Minds.
Glad you could join us.
Today we're looking into a really interesting book, The Science of Getting Rich by W.D. Wattles. And, the title might make you think it's some dense academic thing, but it's really not.
No, it's much more of a practical guide, almost like a step-by-step method for, well, deliberately creating wealth.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
And what's really interesting is who he wrote it for. He specifically says it's for people who feel this, need for money now.
Right. People who want the results first and maybe, think about the philosophy later.
Exactly. He presents his ideas as sort of scientific conclusions, things you act on first, almost taking it on faith to see if it works.
And he really tried to keep the language simple, didn't he? Plain, direct.
Very much so. He wanted it to be easy for anyone to grasp.
So our mission today in this deep dive is to really get into the core ideas he's putting forward.
Okay, so where do we start? Maybe with that potentially controversial idea.
Yeah.
The right to be rich?
Yeah, let's tackle that. He argues pretty strongly that being rich isn't just nice to have. It's actually, well, necessary for a complete life.
Necessary. That's a strong word.
It is. He suggests that without, a certain amount of money, it's hard to really develop your talents, grow your soul. Because growth often needs things, resources.
And money buys those things, essentially. Access.
Yeah, right. And when he says rich, he doesn't just mean getting by.
No, not at all. It's about having what you need, all you need, to live life fully, not just being, content with a little bit.
He almost implies that settling for less is unnatural, like going against life's drive to expand.
Kind of, yeah. He connects that desire for more money to this really basic human urge for a fuller, richer, more abundant life.
But it's not just about material possessions, is it? Seems deeper.
Definitely deeper. He talks about three sides to life.
Yeah.
The body, the mind, and the soul.
Okay.
And he's very clear none is better or holier than the others. They all need to be expressed fully for a complete life.
Can you give us some examples? What does that look like for each part?
Sure. So for the body, it's things like good food, comfortable clothes, warm shelter, rest, recreation, not overworking yourself.
Makes sense.
For the mind, it's access to ideas, books, travel, art, intellectual company, things that stimulate thought.
Right.
And for the soul, he focuses on love. And he says love finds its most natural expression in giving. Poverty, he argues, actually limits your ability to give, to express that love fully.
So wanting to be rich isn't selfish in his view.
Quite the opposite. He reframes it almost as a duty to yourself, maybe to God or the universe and to humanity. Because by making the most of yourself, which needs resources, you have more to offer everyone else.
That definitely shifts the perspective. Okay, let's move to his next big idea, that there's an actual science to getting rich.
Yeah, that sounds very certain, doesn't it? He states it quite boldly. Getting rich isn't luck and the chance. It follows exact laws, just like, say, arithmetic or algebra.
Wow. Yeah.
Says wealth comes from doing things in a certain way.
And this certain way, it's not about your environment or even how talented you are.
Not primarily, no. He argues that people get rich because they do things this certain way, regardless of those other factors. You see people in the same town, same business. Some get rich, some don't. Why? The certain way.
And talent? Lots of talented people are poor.
Exactly. And some, less obviously talented people get rich. So talent alone isn't the key.
Okay, so it's not environment, not just talent.
Yeah.
What about saving money? Being thrifty?
He downplays that too, surprisingly. Says plenty of very thrifty people stay poor, while some big spenders get rich. And it's not about doing some unique business nobody else does either.
Because people in the same business often do similar things, but to get different results.
Right. It always comes back to this certain way of acting.
But you might worry, is this certain way too difficult? Can I actually do it? Does he address that?
Oh, absolutely. He makes a point of saying this isn't some super secret, complicated thing only geniuses can figure out. He insists that anyone, talented or not, smart, or maybe less intellectual, strong, weak, anyone can get rich if they start doing things this way.
What about location? Or the kind of business you're in? Does that matter at all?
He acknowledges they can help. Being in a supportive environment, doing work you actually like, that makes things easier, sure.
They're secondary.
Totally secondary to the main thing, acting in the certain way.
And what if you're thinking, I don't have any money to start with? Lack of capital.
He tackles that head on. Says lack of capital is not a barrier.
Really? Oh.
He argues that if you just start acting in the certain way, the capital you need will come to you as part of the process. To baked into the method.
That sounds almost too good to be true, but definitely hopeful.
It does offer a lot of hope, yeah.
Now, a big objection people have is, isn't opportunity limited? Isn't all the wealth already controlled by a few? How does Wattles respond to that? Is opportunity monopolized?
He says no, absolutely not. He directly counters the idea that poverty exists because there just aren't enough opportunities, or because the rich have locked everything down.
Okay.
He admits, yeah, maybe some specific industries are hard to get into right now, but he stresses that new opportunities are always opening up. Things are constantly changing.
He gave examples from his time, right?
Yeah.
Like transportation.
Exactly. Electric railways, air travel.
Yeah.
Things that were new and expanding back then. His point is the flow of opportunity never stops. It just changes direction.
And he had that example of the steelworker.
Right. Someone working for a big trust seemingly stuck. Wattles suggests even that person, by applying this certain way, could shift gears, maybe get a small farm, become a food producer.
Because the tide of opportunity, as he called it, was shifting towards agriculture then.
Yes, particularly in America at that time. He saw huge potential there.
What about the feeling that workers are just kept down by the system?
He addresses that too. He suggests it's less about the system holding them down and more about them not doing things in a certain way. He even mentions workers could start their own cooperative businesses.
So individuals aren't trapped by their class.
Not according to him. They can follow that tide of opportunity wherever it leads.
And underlying all this is the idea that there's actually enough wealth for everyone.
Oh, absolutely. He's adamant about that. He argues there's more than enough for all. He gives these quite vivid examples, like using the building materials available then to build a palace for every family in the U.S.
Wow.
And that the Earth could produce vastly more food and resources if needed. There's no inherent lack.
Which leads him to this concept of formless stuff or original substance.
Yes, that's fundamental to his whole system. It's this idea of a basic underlying substance, the raw material from which everything is made.
And this stuff is what?
Intelligent.
Yeah.
Limitless.
Exactly. It's intelligent, alive, creative, constantly responding. It's the source of all supply. So if someone is poor, it's not because nature is stingy or opportunities are gone.
It's because they're not connecting with this substance in the right way, not following the certain way.
That's his core argument. Poverty is about how you relate to this source, not a lack in the source.
Okay, so this seems like the perfect lead-in to what he calls the first principle in the science.
Yeah.
What is that first step?
The very first principle, the absolute foundation, is thought. He says thought is the only power that can take this formless substance and turn it into tangible riches.
Just thought.
Just thought. Because this original substance is thinking stuff, a thought held within it, a thought of a specific form, causes that form to be created. All of nature, he says, is just the visible expression of thoughts held in this substance.
He uses examples, right, like the universe itself.
Yeah, the thought of a universe creates planets. The thought of an oak tree sets the slow process of growth in motion.
And he contrasts this with how humans usually create things.
Right. He says mostly we just shuffle existing forms around. We modify things that are already here. We don't typically create new forms directly from the formless by impressing our thoughts onto it.
So he boils this down to 3 basic statements or propositions.
Yes. 3 core ideas you have to accept. 1, there's this original formless thinking stuff that all things come from.
Oh.
2, a thought in this substance produces the thing imagined by the thought.
Right.
And 3, humans can form thoughts in their own minds, impress these thoughts onto the formless substance, and cause the thing they thought of to be created.
And believing these is the crucial first step.
Absolutely crucial. He says you have to accept these statements as completely true, just like you accept gravity or, any other scientific law. It's the starting point for getting rich his way.
And it takes effort to think this way.
Definitely. Because the world around us, appearances often seem to contradict these ideas. Thinking what he calls truth, thinking in line with these principles, means consciously choosing your thoughts, sometimes against what you see, hear, and feel.
He talks about developing a mastermind. What does he mean by that?
A mastermind in this context is someone who can hold on to the truth regardless of appearances, like thinking health even when they feel sick, or thinking abundance even when they look poor. It comes from really knowing this thinking substance is real and powerful.
So step 1 is really about mental discipline, accepting these ideas.
Exactly. He says, dwell on these 3 statements, repeat them, Meditate on them until they become your default way of thinking, and actively push away doubts and opposing ideas.
Okay, that makes sense as a foundation. Then he moves into this idea of increasing life. He pushes back against the idea that God or the universe wants people to be poor, right?
Oh, strongly. He totally dismisses that. He says the very nature of this intelligent substance, the essence of everything, is to seek more life, increase.
Like a seed growing.
Precisely. That's his analogy. A seed doesn't just reproduce itself once, it multiplies manifold. Life always pushes to become more. It's inherent.
And our desire for wealth is part of that same drive.
Yes. He sees the desire for riches as this capacity for a bigger life, just trying to fulfill itself. Every desire is like an unexpressed possibility reaching out. The same impulse that makes a plant grow makes us want more resources, more experiences.
And this aligns with the will of the universe, or God.
He argues it does, that the one living substance actually wants more life expressed through you. It wants you to have all you can use to live more fully, to express itself more completely. The universe, he says, is fundamentally friendly to your plans for growth.
But there's a catch, isn't there, about why you want the wealth?
Yes, a very important one. Your purpose needs to align with that universal purpose of more life. You should be seeking real life, which he defines as performing all possible functions, physical, mental, spiritual, fully, but without unhealthy excess. It's not just about chasing pleasure or indulging selfish whims.
So getting rich should help you live a balanced, full life, body, mind, and soul.
Exactly. It's not about extreme self-indulgence, but it's also not about extreme self-sacrifice or altruism where you neglect your own needs. God, or the substance, wants you to make the most of yourself. And getting rich through this creative method is, in his view, the best way to do that and help others most effectively.
And crucially, this method is creative, not competitive. You're not taking from anyone else.
That's a key distinction. Intelligent substance creates for you. It doesn't take things away from Peter to give to Paul. So competition is unnecessary. You are meant to create what you need, and the process should ideally benefit everyone involved.
He admits some people get rich competitively, though.
He does, but he argues those riches often feel unsatisfactory and don't last. And more importantly, falling into competitive thought, thinking there's a limited supply you have to fight for, actually cuts you off from the creative power.
Because it denies the limitless source.
Precisely. It stops the creative process in its tracks. You have to hold on to the belief in the unlimited riches in the formless substance, knowing they will come to you.
So let's talk about how these riches actually come. He mentioned not driving sharp bargains. What does that mean in practice?
It means dealing fairly, always aiming to give the other person more in use value than the cash value you receive from them.
He used his own book as an example again, didn't he?
Yes. If the ideas in his book help you make thousands, then the book gave you far more use value than its price. That's the ideal.
As opposed to selling something valuable to someone who can't actually use it.
Right. That wouldn't be giving more use value. On the creative plane, every transaction should leave the other person better off, should add more to their life.
He even says if your business inherently harms people, you should get out of it.
He does. It has to contribute positively.
What about employers and employees? That seems inherently unequal sometimes.
He acknowledges the employer usually gets more cash value than they pay in wages, but he suggests a business can be run on creative principles if it's organized to give employees real opportunities for advancement and growth, more life, so they gain more than just their wages over time.
Okay, but how does this stuff actually manifest? It's not like you just think of a sewing machine and poof.
Haha, no, not usually instant magic. He clarifies that creating from formless substance isn't about things appearing out of thin air right in front of you. Your thought acts like a blueprint or a signal that sets universal forces in motion.
So for the sewing machine example.
You form a clear mental image. You hold it with absolute faith that it's being made for you or it's on its way. You claim it mentally as already yours.
And then?
Then the supreme intelligence, this thinking substance, starts working through the minds of people, through currents of commerce, through existing channels, maybe in ways you don't expect, to bring that machine to you.
So it influences people and events.
Yes, because it's everywhere, in everything, influencing everything. It made everything that exists, and it can make more. Your desire and faith act as the trigger.
And he encourages thinking big, asking for a lot.
Definitely. Ask largely, he says. Original substance wants you to have everything you can possibly use for the fullest possible life. Your desire for riches is really the infinite wanting to express itself more fully through you.
Didn't he tell a story about someone who started small?
Yeah, the poor man who only dared ask for a rug and a stove at first. Then he realized he could ask for much more, pictured his ideal home, kept acting in a certain way, and eventually got it. The lesson being, don't limit your requests based on current appearances. Believe you can have it all.
This seems like a good transition to the role of gratitude. Why is that so incredibly important in his system?
Gratitude is the key, really, to connecting harmoniously with that formless intelligence. It's how you transmit your desire effectively. He breaks it down. First, believe in the substance. Second, believe it gives you what you want. Third, relate to it with deep, heartfelt gratitude.
And a lack of gratitude can actually block the process.
He thinks so, yes. He says many people stay poor because they lack gratitude. It sort of severs the connection, closes the circuit to the source. Gratitude, on the other hand, keeps you tuned in, keeps the connection strong.
So you receive more good things faster.
That's the idea. Gratitude brings your mind into closer touch with the source, with God. It aligns you with the creative energies. It also crucially prevents you from falling back into competitive thought, into thinking supply is limited.
He even calls it a law of gratitude.
He does, like action and reaction. Your grateful praise goes out, reaches the supreme, and causes a reaction, a movement of things towards you. He points to Jesus as someone who consistently expressed gratitude.
So it's more than just being polite, it's an active force.
Very active, and it's vital for maintaining faith. If you're constantly complaining or focusing on lack, you can't really hold on to faith and abundance. Dissatisfied thoughts, he warns, can actually push good things away.
Whereas focusing on the best brings the best.
Exactly. Gratitude helps you focus on the good you do have, which fosters an expectation of more good, and that expectation grows into solid faith.
And he suggests being grateful for everything, even the difficult stuff.
Yes, it's quite encompassing. Be thankful for every good thing, obviously, but also try to find the good, the opportunity, even in things that seem negative, like the way society is organized or politicians or whatever, because somehow they are part of the structure through which your opportunities will come. Include all in your gratitude.
Wow. That's a comprehensive approach. This has been a really fascinating dive into the science of getting rich.
It really has. We've covered quite a bit, that idea of the right to be rich, wealth creation being a science this certain way, challenging limits on opportunity, the power of thought acting on formless substance.
The drive for increasing life, creating versus competing, how riches actually come to you, and yeah, that absolutely central role of gratitude.
A lot packed into a relatively short book.
Indeed. Well, thank you for joining us on this deep dive here at MetaBookNook.
We really appreciate you listening in.
If this sparked your interest and you want to explore these ideas more directly, we definitely recommend picking up The Science of Getting Rich by W.D. Wattles. We'll put a link to where you can find the book and maybe some other resources down in the description.
Hope to have you with us next time.
Yes! Please join us next time on MetaBookNook for another deep dive into a curious text.